This edition of Papa's Perspective is brought to you by Bob's Discount Furniture, official furniture store and a mattress partner of the New York Giants. And on this episode, we welcome in Super Bowl champion Kevin Boss, who joins us here on the show. Kevin, great catching up. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Yeah, it's an honor to be here with you. Just looking forward to chatting and good to hear your voice.
Kevin, let's talk a little bit about first getting drafted by the New York Giants and what that was like for you coming in as a kid that grew up out on the West Coast, and now all of a sudden here you are coming to New York City and going to play for the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big jump, just going from Division II football to the NFL. You know, that was a big jump in and of itself. Just the speed of the game. I mean, really the biggest adjustment for me, I think, was just the X's and O's. I think in Division II football, I could get away with just, being a better athlete than everybody. But yeah, that was probably the biggest transition. But yeah, that was big. But let alone just going from a tiny little town that I grew up in, tiny little town that I went to school in, and then moving to New York and New Jersey, that was a big jump for me. But I feel really fortunate that it was New York, and now that's a place that I get to come back to every year.
Before we get into the big catch in Super Bowl 42 and helping beat the Patriots, let's talk a little bit about you come to the team, and I think some fans forget about Jeremy Shockey was there, and he wound up getting hurt late in the season. Thus, your role started to increase. What was it like being an understudy to Jeremy Shockey, and what did you learn from Eli and all those guys as you were kind of going through this first season in the National Football League?
Yeah, I felt like I was really lucky that I landed on a team, was drafted by a team that had, a bunch of vets. There was guys that, Eli and Amani and Jeremy and Plax and Strahan. And I mean, it was just so many, older veteran guys that have been around, and we're really a lot of guys that were like true professionals. And, but yeah, Shockey was one of those guys. And it was, again, being a Division II guy, and, I grew up watching these guys. I remember, I played tight end since I was in 7th grade. And so I remember watching Shockey when he was at the U and then being drafted by the Giants. And so to all of a sudden be his backup was pretty surreal. And then I also grew up a Michigan fan. So to be on Amani Toomer's team was like pretty awesome. Amani was one of those guys I locked onto early on, and he was a consummate pro and somebody that I just like tried to follow his footsteps. And yeah, but learned a ton from Jeremy. He was an incredible player. I think sometimes people forget just how good he was. And so to have the opportunity to play behind him for a season and to learn behind him really helped me.
So Kevin, talk us through the 45-yard catch and run in Super Bowl 42, coming out for the start of the second half. What was the conversation like?
Yeah, it was one of those situations where it wasn't like a play that was in our game plan for that particular game. It was more like you got to give credit to Gilbride, and I think Coach Pope was in on it as well. We kind of recognized pretty early on that if we were to send me in like a little motion, we could get me open down the seam there. And I was getting jammed off the line of scrimmage quite a bit, but they were leaving the middle of the field open. And so by sending me in motion, I got a little room detached from the line of scrimmage there, gave me a little bit of space to release. And, from there, it was pretty easy. Just middle of the field was wide open. Eli threw me a good ball, and, I always say if I was a little bit faster, I would have scored, but, set up Tyree to, score that first touchdown for him. And, but yeah, it was unique in the way that, we kind of, yeah, like I said, just kind of drew it up on the sideline of like, hey, like I think if we throw a little yo-yo motion in here, you know, stretch it wide to the numbers and bend it in slightly, it's going to be open. And sure enough, it was.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? So for the older Giant fan, that was a staple, right? Sims to Bavaro,
Yeah.
and running that seam. And of course, Mike Pope was the tight ends coach during that era as well.
Yeah.
So it was one of those things that really resonated with Giants fans. What about the lift that it gave the team offensively?
Yeah, I mean, we were struggling a little bit to get some things going offensively. Our defense obviously was playing lights out, but we were stalling a little bit offensively. So, that was the first play of the fourth quarter, and it was definitely a little energy boost for our team and a little confidence boost. And like I said, I think, you know, Tyree scored a couple plays later, but yeah, I always just feel super grateful and blessed that I, had the opportunity to make a play and to make a little bit of a difference in that game.
In the aftermath of it all, right? The Tyree catch, Plexico scoring the touchdown, the Hail Marys by Brady right in front of your bench down that left sideline, and the ball getting deflected at the last minute. I mean, how surreal was it for you that a fifth-round pick, Western Oregon, wind up playing a key role and your rookie season's ending with a Super Bowl and you having a big hand in it, considering where the season started for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time I just didn't even realize how just fortunate and lucky I was to have been drafted into this organization and then to go win a Super Bowl my rookie year. And like you said, after we started pretty slow and the stars aligned for that particular season. And we had guys like Jeff Fiegels that was in, I think, year 20 and was playing in his first Super Bowl. So I took it, I think all of us rookies kind of took it for granted a little bit, and I obviously never played another Super Bowl after that. But when you're a rookie and it's your first year, you're kind of like, oh, this is great. This is what we do, and then you realize just how challenging it is to get back. But yeah, it was, I count my lucky stars and my blessings all the time that, I ended up getting drafted by the Giants, and we had the year that we did that year.
In 4 years with the Giants, 45 starts in 58 games, a lot of touchdowns with the Giants. I mean, you had 18 touchdowns, not being like the fulcrum of the offense. You wound up playing with Oakland in 2011 and then finished your career up in Kansas City. And then, like a lot of guys, like life after football kind of hit you. Because of injury. You weren't able to continue playing.
Yep.
What was it like sorting through that part of your life en route to where you are right now?
Yeah, it was hard. Honestly, full transparency, it's a struggle. It's a challenge. Every guy I talk to goes through it, and it's just it can be kind of a dark time a little bit where you're just so used to having this one sole purpose of being a football player and trying to take care of yourself to perform at a high level. And, the team has you on this schedule, and then all of a sudden there is no schedule, and so there's a little bit of a transition period there where you're like, okay, what next? And I certainly went through that. Thankfully I knew what I wanted to do next. It's still hard to put the wheels in motion and to get started on that next project or that next passion to pursue. But thankfully I knew what I wanted to do, and I wanted to open up a gym, and that's kind of what eventually, after kind of trying to get the wheels going on that, I poured everything I had into that, and that's kind of still what I'm doing today.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Boss Sports Performance. Really cool website for those Giant fans that might be out in your area or whatever. They could go check it out at bosssportsperformance.com. But what your trying to build here with this business, what you've accomplished so far, where you see it going. What's the driving force in this business for you?
Yeah, I went through a time in my early high school years where I just lacked some confidence. I was kind of struggling with, honestly, like some like body image issues. I was just kind of like that kid that grew round and then hit a growth spurt and would thin out, and I wasn't really that strong as a young kid. And I had a high school football coach that after my freshman year kind of took me under his wing and was like, "Hey, you're going to meet me in the weight room every day after school." And I did that. And so, long story short, it really changed the trajectory of my life. I think I tell my coach, I still stay in touch with this particular coach, and I've told him this multiple times, but he really did put me on the right path. And it sparked a love for the weight room, and it sparked a love for training and just the process and like developing a work ethic. And I knew right then and there that like this is something that I wanted to do someday. I wanted to like give this same feeling to other young boys and girls that were kind of struggling with confidence. And so I always say, like, football, having the opportunity to play in the NFL was great, and I wouldn't change that for the world. But like the thing that I feel like I was really put on this earth to do was to do what I'm doing now. And the NFL has just kind of given me a bigger platform to do this on a bigger scale and to impact more lives, and to be able to, just impact my community on a bigger stage and a bigger level.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at your website and having visited it, I mean, really the emphasis is really on the youth, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, people can go and work out there and train there and use personal trainers, but your whole thing is really about the youth.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's kind of comes from, my backstory and just wanting to be a positive place in our community. I grew up in a household where my parents were, played a big role in our community as far as just very involved in our community. And so that's just what I witnessed. That's what I watched growing up. And that was something that I wanted to do as well. And, I felt it just was like such a natural transition for me, just, to finish football, to stay involved in sports, and to want to impact my community, especially on the youth side. And, we say it all the time that, like, we're not just like building bigger, faster, stronger kids. Like, we're also trying to build like strong leaders in this community too. And I think that's the part that, like, I'm always like reinforcing, emphasizing with my employees is like, hey, like, yes, like getting these kids stronger is important, but like giving them a place where they feel seen and heard and loved, and like that's really what like I want this place to feel like, and that's the culture that we've been fortunate enough to build here, and it's been really life-giving for me.
Kevin, just one more thing about youth, the youth. As everything becomes a bigger business and more competitive, you see parents, especially in maybe the more affluent communities, getting kids and funneling them to one. Like, we're going to play this year round. We're going to do this year round. We're going to train year round. But then if you open up a media guide for the NBA or the NFL or Major League Baseball, you see that like so many of your favorite sports stars were actually multi-sport athletes right on through high school.
Yeah.
What's the message that you would have to parents out there that are trying to funnel their kid into one sport and overcommit them to one single sport when they're 10, 11, 12?
Yeah, don't do it. It's a trap. It is an absolute trap. And I mean, this could be a whole podcast, and it's actually like a kind of a hot button for me, slash like I'm just really passionate about this subject, and just how how bad it is for our youth to be doing that at such a young age. And I think the parents are to blame, like you said. It's just like youth sports can kind of prey on parents like fear, and like feel like my kid's missing out. But there's so much research behind just the benefits behind these kids moving from season to season and sport to sport, and just the overuse injury, and I mean, just other things too, of just like not getting bored and burnt out. Like that's an easy one. I see so many talented kids, especially baseball. Baseball is crazy, but these kids that are being burnt out on baseball by the time they're like 14 because the parents have just shoved it down their throat. But I just it's an absolute trap. Parents, I just can't implore you enough to let your kids play multiple sports. And I promise it's just a very short-sighted mindset to just think that like, hey, my kid is going to be really great at 12. Like nobody is going to get drafted at 12, So I think it's something that we just have to look at the big picture and understand that puberty is a great equalizer, and it's got to be the long game and looking at the big picture.
Kevin, circling back to the Giants, obviously Strahan has the fairy tale ending. Not many people get to walk it off. There's been a few. Ray Lewis was another one that got to do it, but most careers end kind of the way yours did.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't end on your terms. When you think about those 4 years with the Giants, and obviously the Super Bowl, but sort of the bonds and friendships and the lessons that you learned in that time, that now as you get a little bit older and you're raising kids of your own, you find yourself kind of reaching back to some of those messages that you once had blasted in your ear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I mean, I think having a leader, we talked about it a little bit beforehand, but having a leader like Coach Coughlin, and that's another reason I just feel extremely fortunate to have landed where I landed, and just have a guy like Coughlin that led our team the right way, and to be able to look back and think of the lessons that were learned through Coach Coughlin, and through the trials and tribulations of that first season, but also just the ups and downs of my 4 years there, and just something that I would never change for the world, in terms of having the opportunity to play for the New York Giants, and having the opportunity to play for Coach Coughlin.
And having that name etched on a Super Bowl trophy, like that's in perpetuity, right? And that's something that you can share with your family moving forward. The Wellington Maryline, once a Giant, always a Giant. When you hear that, what does that mean to Kevin Boss?
Yeah, I recently had this conversation when I went back to a game this season. I brought my 13-year-old son back to a game, and I was talking to somebody how, like, I think a lot of franchises try to like use that, but I feel like the Giants are like the one franchise that actually live that out. And they, when former guys come back, like myself, like I feel like they roll out the red carpet for you, and they take care of you, and I think that's starts with the Mara family, and how they want their former guys to be treated, and it's just from talking to other guys around the league, I know it's not the same for other franchises and for other organizations. And so, the Giants really continue to live that out. And I feel, again, just super lucky to be able to experience that still to this day, and getting to go back to games and feeling like I'm still part of it in a way.
Kevin, we appreciate you taking a couple minutes to join us. Always great catching up. And thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with the Performance Center.
Yeah, appreciate it, Bob. Thanks for having me, man.
That's Kevin Boss joining us on this edition of Popper's Perspective, brought to you by Bob's Discount Furniture, official furniture store and a mattress partner of the New York Giants.